In 2015, Tanya Hayles started a Facebook group called Black Moms Connection. 5 years later, the group is now a global network of 15,000 moms who come together to talk about parenting, politics, race, and education. Tanya is joining us this morning. Good to speak with you.
Good morning.
Let's start with the creation. Tell me why it was important for you to create and design a space that is exclusively for Black mothers.
So for me, it started out when I took my son to a splash pad and I thought to myself, oh, I wonder if they make sunscreen for Black skin. And the Facebook groups I was in at the time, they weren't very diverse spaces. And I wanted to be able to ask questions that were race related, culturally related, and get the answers in a safe environment.
In light of recent events, what we are seeing both in Canada and the U.S., what kinds of conversations are the moms in your group sharing with one another, and what kind of questions are kids asking?
Well, the thing is, the Black community has never had the luxury of not having these conversations, right? We call it the talk in the community, where, racism has come to your door, whether it's in reaction to what's happening in the news or with something that's happened to them in real life. So the questions have always, and these conversations have always taken place. Some kids are asking, like, what's happening? Why are buildings on fire? Why are people angry? What's going on? Why are you sad? Because, it's really hard to keep your grief away from your children while you're seeing all these images. So, there's tons of questions being asked, and especially if your children have access to social media, they know even a little bit more. So it's a little bit harder to hide this time around.
What is your response to your kids' questions about grief? It's hard as a kid to watch your parents show emotion that way.
Right. Yeah, I think, for me, it's you have to start where your children are. You have to, to say, there's people who are upset. They're treated differently because of the color of their skin. And kids have a really staunch sense of fairness. So they'll say, hey, that's not fair. And, you can reply, yeah, you're absolutely right. The harder question to answer is, why is it happening, right? Racism, it has a lot of complexities. And if your child is, 10 and under, do you start with the root cause of racism and all this stuff, so it can be really difficult and challenging. But the important part as a parent is to say, if you don't have an answer, say, I don't know that answer, but let's learn about it together.
Race and racism is a conversation that starts very early in homes with people with non-white skin. I remember first talking about it with my parents when I was 6, after my first day of grade 1. So for white families who aren't used to having to talk about race or racism or how it affects them, what tips do you have for talking to their kids about this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is very important. Racism is not just a Black problem. This is an everybody problem. And so, start where your kids are. You know your kids best. You know how old they are. You know what they can handle and manage, and then just relate it to their everyday life. Talk about what they see in their books and on TV shows that they watch, the movies that they watch, their playgrounds. Start with your own circles too. If you have people of color in your own circles and Black people in your own circles, check in with them and say, like, hey, we've never had a conversation about your lived experience and how you have to parent. How are you handling all of this? Black Moms Connection, we created a resource page. So we have age by age guides that will tell you, like, hey, this is appropriate for high school students. This is appropriate for younger kids. And so hopefully, you put tools in your own toolbox so that you can help educate your kids.
Black Moms Connection is an excellent toolbox and an excellent resource. So glad that you created it and shared it with us today. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.